Tape 2, side 1 of Mom and Dad's past nefarious history, and let's see if we're off the leader yet. Testing. Well, no, out in
North Dakota?
in North Dakota when you were a kid.
Well,
I remember you.
I don't. In the early days out in the Golden Valley, it was just like pioneer life, you know, and most transportation was with oxen or elk. They had different ones had teams of elk. There was a country was run with elk. A lot of these old Norwegians and Finlanders and Icelanders there, they caught the young elk and trained them, and they used to drive into town 40, 50 miles with those elk, and summertime in the buggy and sleigh in the winter.
Well, how could you tie an elk out to the pasture? Wouldn't it take off?
No, they tamed them. But they were used to handling these things, you see, and in Norway, they were Finns that really broke them in and trained them, you know, and they did something to them, I don't know what, but they grazed with the cattle in the pastures and around. They seemed to stay there. And they used them for buggy and sleighs, and there were several teams of them. But most of the transportation was with oxen and saddle horses.
And
most of the land was broken with oxen.
And when you went out there, I guess it was strictly homestead, eh?
Yeah, all homestead land. The ranchers were in there, and they were pretty sore. There was a lot of shooting and scrapping, quite a bit of scrapping, you know. Different little lynching parties, and that was the early days in North Dakota when we were out there. We were always just a little bit behind seeing the buffalo, but we saw lots of them. They just hadn't been dead too long. The bones are all around there. And then when we went up from Canada to Saskatchewan, they were picking the buffalo bones from everywhere, and we used to come out from town, the fellows, and they'd haul them into town. There was millions of tons of buffalo bones hauled into the boxcars and crates. And
what did they do with that?
Was it soap or glue or what?
I don't know what. They ground them up and they did something with them, fertilizer or something. So these buffalo bones were worth they made quite a bit of money out of selling them. And the prairies are spread with them.
When you pay quite a bit of money in those days, probably they haul a load for
Or they get maybe $5 for the wagon load.
What is the earliest Christmas you can remember?
Oh, I can remember in the Golden Valley, the Christmas tree there. And we got an orange or an apple.
Was it at home or at school?
And you used to, Moore used to make all kinds of old Norwegian cakes. Well, they were all Norwegians in there. So they Julekaga and Kringlings and all kinds of ginger cakes. And that's pretty well all Christmas was. Nice time, though.
That's what's the name of the fish?
Lutefisk. Lutefisk.
That was their Christmas.
Oh, it is working. And
what is? Do you have any outstanding memories from those days? You know, that you remember, anything that was very beautiful or wonderful, or anything that was fearful or scary or hardship?
well, what used to me as a kid was very wonderful were the flax fields. A flax field in full bloom was about 18 inches high, and maybe 160 or 200 acres, 300 acres of that, and it just looked like the ocean. It was all blue. Every flower would come out and they were all dark blue. And they just waved and looked. And my mother used to say that just like the ocean to her. You see these big flax fields, and everybody grew flax because it was the best paying crop.
Oh, have you any idea what it was like for her coming out from a city in Europe, from Oslo, which was a pretty good-sized city, and her father was a preacher, and suddenly she comes out with your father, who was not geared to be a rancher or a farmer.
No, he wasn't geared. He was not a farmer.
What was it like for
I'll tell you
her?
what stands out. When it rained, when the roof leaked, and your father was a great reader, he read in bed.
He can't pick you up
And he
from
used
there,
to-
Ma.
My dad used to, when it rained, you know, there was only a sod roof, and he used to get the umbrella and put the umbrella open, and then he'd lay under there with a candle and reading his books. He was a great reader. You know, he used to leak right through.
No matter, there's no fixing when it got wet at the entrance.
Was he a boozer?
Yes, he loved his booze. He drank alcohol. They always had the kettle on the stove, you know, and they had a gallon of pure alcohol. Good drink. And that was...
Well, was that standard, or was that because he was a chemist?
No, North Dakota was supposed to be a dry state, and they had to get that from bootleggers.
You had to get the alcohol from bootleggers?
Yeah. My dad had a worm, and he used to try and make it. Well, he did make quite a bit of alcohol.
Well, as a chemist, I would hope so.
Oh, yeah.
Especially a
He made
thirsty
pretty
one.
good, but he got caught, and,
What happened?
well, they took the whole thing away from him.
What did Grandma Moore do? Say, can you
Well, I
remember?
guess he'd have gone to jail if it hadn't been for Grandma Moore.
Grandma
well,
was when they were so hard, and she get the cards and throw them in the fire.
oh, God, yeah.
There's the devil, you see. Didn't he eating there in the fire?
My poor old dad, he used to like to play poker and that, and Moore, she would get the cards as soon as he put them and lay them down. They were gone in the fire.
They were in the fire, and he could tell all the kids to play cards. There's the devil, see him? See him leaping? He gets it.
Yeah. But they were quite rugged country back then in the early days.
Where is Park River from Minot?
From Minot?
Yeah.
Oh, let's see. If you, well, I'll tell you, if you go to Winnipeg, that's the easiest way to get it. There's town right close to Park River. Well, if you go to Grafton, North Dakota, and go 18 miles west, or if you go to Devil's Lake and go straight east about 35 miles, you'll come to Park River. But Park River is easy to find. It's a fair-sized place.
Oh, yeah. Well, then how about when you got into the Capel
We got in,
in 1911, when you would have been...
no, 1906.
1906, when you were 16. And
Yeah.
now, did you homestead?
No, I couldn't homestead for 2 years.
So what happened? Didn't you do something and get your age all screwed up?
Yeah, but no, I got mixed up in my age, so I raised it from 16 to 18, so I could file on the homestead, and that stayed with me even right today. I'm 2 years
Driver's license and on his army record.
on my army record. So
When he came to get his old age pension, and he dug and dug and dug to get his baptism papers, all he could get was a picture of the group of them with him, the
1892, you
baby,
see.
and the name's written on the back of it. And that was when we did get the christening papers from
Duluth,
Minnesota.
Minnesota.
And the name, you could hardly, Bernt, B-E-R-N-T, and Bernt Siegfried, and it was signed Godfather Jakob Rennerson.
I don't think we can pick this up, Ma.
No.
I'm just telling you.
Yeah.
Remember.
Well, you were born in 1900, though.
Yeah, I was born in
But
1890.
1890, I mean.
Yeah.
But as far as Saskatchewan was concerned, you were born in 1888 then.
1892.
No, that would have made you younger yet.
What it is.
Yeah.
Well, you wanted to be older. Well,
I
you're
wanted to be
16
older.
and you want to be older, so you must have told them you were born in 1888.
No, damn it. How the hell did we go and put it 1892?
Well, that would have made you younger. That would have made you 14 and not instead of 18.
That's what he thought he was. It was all
Gee, maybe you couldn't come too well. American education wasn't too good at any time, was it?
He has only got 10 fingers.
Well, anyway, when did you
I
file?
I filed on a homestead in 1900 and... Oh, that's not
Because you proved it up in 1912.
1908, yeah. So I was 18. I was all right.
And you were living at
Anyway,
home?
I filed on the homestead in 1908.
Yeah.
In the Cow Valley, right in the bottom.
And what did you do with it?
I farmed it for a while, but I was working on the Too Lazy 2 ranch, and they wanted it for grazing, and it was just right tight to them. So they bought it from me in the end, after I proved it up.
How much?
Eh?
How much?
Oh, I got $800 for it.
How many acres?
160.
In the bottom of the Capel Valley.
Yeah.
Do you think you'd get that much now?
I'll get a lot more than that for it. Yeah.
Summer resort now.
Yeah.
Well, was that anywhere near Peters?
Right close to them, right joining them.
Or what did you do for the Lazy 2 Ranch?
I was punching cows
What did that
and
consist
breaking
of?
horses and... Eh?
What did you do? What was a day or a month's work there?
Well, the herding mostly. Herding the horses. We used to go down to Kalispell, Montana, and we'd pick up 100 or 200 horses, and we'd drive them up from Kalispell to in Browning, Montana, and we'd drive them up to all wild broncs, never been handled at all, and we could sell them to the settlers. We paid about $25, sometimes $15. Never had more than $25 down there in the state for these horses. And we'd bring them up there and we'd get 200 and 250, the whole rancher did. And then we'd break them for him. The homesteaders, mostly Englishmen, that never seen a horse hardly before. And they'd come down and buy these damn horses, and we'd tie them up to a snubbing post and harness them. And they'd hook them onto a wagon, one tame horse and one wild one, and away they'd go up the valley. Well, I broke them if they
Well,
wanted.
how the heck would you chase 200 bloody wild horses?
Oh, you get a leader and they'll go anywhere you want them. We used to change horses and it was a pretty fast trip.
You mean if you had a horse, what do you mean a leader? What does a leader do?
Well, there was usually a good leader horse, a mare or usually a young stud. And if you had him, it's surprising.
Well, how do you control him?
Chase him, eh?
How do you control the leader?
You just ride, that's all. You just keep right up with him. Gotta have damn good horses.
You ride on either side and behind.
There'd be about 5 riders.
You mean, but there wouldn't the horses spread out all across the prairie?
No, they never did that. They bunched together and stayed there. And when we got them up in the valley, you'd have to watch them for about a week. And some of them would start to try to go home. But most of them would stay pretty close together. And usually the old stallion that keep them around. And when they got up to the valley, they had an old stud there. His name was Prince. And when he got the herd together, nothing got away at all. He watched them and he heard it. All you had to do was watch him.
Did you sell these?
And then we sold them to these homesteaders. And we usually got $250 for them. Nice. Some horses were easy to break, some were turned.
Well, were these homesteaders, where the hell did they get $200?
Oh, most of them that came there, they gave him notes. They'd give him $50 or $75, and he got the notes. And Walsett could take them into the bank, and if they had the land and they had the banking seemed to be very easy in those days.
Well, the banker was the chief guy in the town.
So Walsett, he sold it. Oh, hell, while I was working for him, we had 3 bunches come in. There was 2 Mexican boys there and me, and then there was...
I'll get out of your way now. I'll just turn this off for you. He wasn't a banker.
No,
he was an old cowboy, a real old gambler, and he had his nose broken by the butt of a gun. The fellow hit him with his butt of his revolver in Montana and broke his nose, so his nose.
And he took old Granny Peters, who was living with Grandpa Peters, but she decided she liked Ole the best, and so they all lived in the same house, but she decided to.
She went with Walsett and stayed in the hotels and whatever they went.
And old Peters didn't mind.
A nice friendly way.
I mean, there's nobody changed?
No?
No hard feelings or anything.
It sounds just like Arrington in 1979.
So there you are, human nature.
Nothing has changed a bit, not a bit.
There's a few squares in amongst the round ones. Some are in a square peg in a round hole, or vice versa.
Well, now, who was the real wild woolly character you guys used to talk about?
Mostly Oily Walster, the Uncle Jake. He was about as wild as any of them.
We got $40 a month.
Cowboy.
And
your keep. And you did whatever.
It was all day job. God, you were out in the saddle at 5 o'clock in the morning. You stayed out.
You looked after, you wrangled your own horses. And not a fence. Dad and I took 50 head out of light horses. Oh, some of them were race horses, weren't they?
Yeah.
Right out of a boxcar. We took them south down to Ole. What's his name?
Austin.
No, not Austin. Oh, heavens, a ranch south of Moose Jaw. Down on the Johnson Lake. And, God, when they got out of that boxcar, there was 2. My brother was along, Len, and one other fella. But we lost them. But I had the lunch. I had the lunch on the back of my saddle, and we thought.
I had Kindle and I had Darky.
And we just went over the prairie, not a fence anywhere, and they spread. And I guess every once in a while I could see top of Father's head over the dunes. I kept coming behind, and he was heading them from spreading, and then the others were supposed to be on the other side, but we never saw them. Poor Len, he hobbled along on his horse. Pretty well played our horses out.
Horse.
Yeah, I founded his horse.
Couldn't ride him home. I got
Pillow was tough, though. Pillow was tough.
I got a saddle horse from the ranch.
First Dad had to ride not more than I kept them coming. You had to keep them coming fast. You didn't have to dare let them until they got really winded, and you'd run them into a slough, and then they'd stay there. Drink and you know, and nibble at the grass around, and we could take a breather. And I had lunch for the 4 of us, but we never saw the other 2, so we ate it all.
Well, wait a minute. We're going to have ourselves when you left the stage. You guys hadn't got introduced yet. Now you're already on these long trips. So let's get back to 1911, 1912.
1912, yeah.
Well, how the heck did you guys meet?
Well, this
Give me a
Uncle
piece of
Jake.
toast.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you'd taken one.
If Mommy does, if Ma does the talking, you get the toast. If you do the talking, Ma gets the toast.
You got a table over there, haven't you? Oh, in bed, you can hold it like that.
Let's see, yeah, all systems are go. Maybe I should get both versions of this.
So,
Either one talk or the other. It's no use in 2 talking. If you want to tell it now, you go ahead.
no, you got to tell your part.
Oh, you were part of this act. Didn't you go on the honeymoon?
Well,
All right, give me your version.
Well,
How did this happen? And then we'll get the real one.
I don't think Father knows how it happened.
Yes, of course I know how it happened.
Do you?
Yes. I went down and
Yeah.
to Uncle Jake. Here was Mother there with Dora.
I wasn't mother then.
So I said, "Will you come up to our place?" And so she came up to our place and met my mommy. And so
I had a race with you.
we had a race. And I beat her. And she beat me. She had a better horse. She had Diane. No, what's her name?
John. I had John.
Yeah, John.
You had Diane.
So then she was going to ride home all by herself from our place.
Oh,
We were
back
in the
down
top
to
of the
Uncle
valley.
Jake's, you know.
And she had to come down through the valley, and there was one bad spot where it was all mud. And
Alkali.
you keep clear of that. Because you get in there, you can never get out. So she rode straight into it. So,
God, you just like some idea.
so Diane got her out.
No, John. I was on John.
Was it John?
Uncle Jake's horse, right?
He was her horse.
Yeah.
Okay, so then I went down the next day and we went for a ride on Pistol.
Oh.
And the other mare, what was that mare's name? Diane, I think. Anyway, the horse threw her,
No.
and
We were going downhill and you ran away. And Father says you couldn't make that horse stumble. And right that moment he stumbled. And the horse tore his face open. And I went over his head and I was hanging by a hame strap. I didn't have it.
I broke this stirrup on the saddle, and so I put a hame strap in it.
For a stirrup.
And she caught her foot in it,
Of course it wouldn't let go. Now I was dragging.
and they dragged her about a mile. Oh, God, that was a hell of a
My nose. Stuck my teeth through my lip.
So we got the doctor out from Brownlee, and
Well, how did you stop the bloody horse?
The strap broke.
the strap broke and the horse went away. He went.
As long as I got my foot out, you see, the
We
hame
got
strap.
him the next day.
Went down into the creek. I must have caught on some of the bush because something broke the strap.
This was the second day you guys knew each other.
The 3rd day, I think.
And you got a broken nose and your teeth are hanging through your lip.
Yeah. And a week later
Where
we
was
were
he?
married with my teeth.
Well, in the meantime,
Back at the ranch.
while she was getting herself fixed up, we decided that we would like to get married.
How
Now, we'd
many
known
hours?
each other about a week then.
You see, I knew I didn't dare to go home and ask permission. And I decided I was having a lot of
So
fun.
about a week after we met, we went into Crate, and I bought her a wedding ring. I don't know where I got the money. Do you know?
$10?
And then
Same ring.
The same one? Well, this one's got pretty good wear.
So
solid gold.
We went over and we asked
No fooling about
the
that.
English minister if he'd marry us, and he said no. No, I couldn't
Have
do
to
that.
have the bands.
We knew him well, too. I knew him well. No, he wouldn't do that. So I went over to an old friend of mine that I used to drive
Everybody.
for years, and I used to know him, McNeil, minister,
Presbyterian.
minister. Oh, yeah, sure. And he said, how married? Oh, she married us. She called in, who was that, old Morgan?
Blacksmith.
The blacksmith.
And the old lady that, I don't know,
How much did it cost?
Eh?
$10.
I don't know if I don't think McNeil charged me anything.
And where did you go on your honeymoon?